Hi everybody, this is Tom Grisak with a very special guest, one of my favorite people. This is Mayor Darian Culbertson, the Mayor of Fairview. Mayor, thank you so much for visiting with us. I'm one of your biggest fans. You've kind of kept me updated over the years, which I certainly appreciate. And I'm going to be asking you about your term here, things that you've accomplished, things that with your term ending, what you've kind of unfinished business in the future Fairview is. So appreciate you visiting with us.
Tom, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I appreciate your kind remarks and coming from one of the premier real estate professionals in Collin County.
Thank you.
It's indeed a compliment. So thank you. Thank you, sir.
So how many days you have left before your term ends?
Officially, I have 14 days left before my 6th year term as mayor ends. Okay. But as I've said to others, Tom, it's been 13 years in local government in the town of Fairview. And 13 years that I'm very, very
big
proud
changes,
of.
huge changes.
Significant changes, and Tom, I would say that those changes have been warranted, and those changes are all benefit our residents.
Well, they're lucky to have you. I know that, and I'm going to be asking you I don't know if you can voice your opinion, who you'd like to see take your place or not, but if you have to keep that to yourself, I understand. When you first came out here, what did Fairview look like?
Fairview had roughly 6,000 residents. The center, what was then the village of Fairview, was launched, but it was struggling. And that is one of the things that we worked very, very hard to turn around. Fairview had streets that needed to be improved. Fairview had some things that simply, Tom, had not been addressed by previous councils. And it was my thoughts, my ability to actually see through and what needed to be done and work with the council to get things done. It was an opportunity for me to actually make some improvements. I suggest some improvements.
What was the first thing you decided this is what we got to fix first?
On my very first day of office as mayor, I met with the folk who actually owned at that point in time Fairview Town Center.
Right.
The center was in complete disarray. Merchants were leaving. There was no solid plan for improvement. Merchants that were left behind or that were staying were not pleased with the management team and some of the results that they had requested. So one of the first things I did was, and actually the first meeting I officially conducted as mayor, was with the management team of the previously owned Fairview Town Center.
Okay.
It had to be changed. Tom, this is our downtown. We don't have another place in town that we can refer to as our downtown.
Right.
So to the degree that our downtown is broken or is in ill repair, that means that we haven't done our jobs, I believe, as elected officials. So that's one of the first things we had to do was focus on getting it turned around.
Right. By the way, we're sitting here in the 4-story Fairview Town Hall, and it is, if you've never been up here, it is really something else. For a town of this size, how many people live in Fairview now?
About 9,600 people at this point.
Under 10,000 people, to have a gorgeous 4-story building, and I tell you, this building looks as pretty on the front as it does from the back. It's one of the few buildings I've ever seen you could take a picture of it and you wouldn't know which way it was pointing. But I think a lot of that is because the rear of the building faces the retail, and you wanted to have a nice vision when people come up.
Yes.
You're great about keeping secrets. One of the things I had asked you about, the Texas Land and Cattle space,
Yes.
Has just been leased. Tell us who's going to be leasing that.
Boomer Jacks will be coming to Fairview. I think that their closest location at this point, I believe, is in Fort Worth.
Okay, and it's seafood, right?
Seafood and American fare.
Okay.
So,
Well, they'll be-
so we're,
I
we're,
guess-
we're very excited about having them.
Good.
And Thomas, you can look around what is now Fairview Town Center. You can see there's been a plethora of change.
Oh gosh, yes.
Literally outside of this building, we've got a new 24-hour fitness that's being constructed. We've
I
got
didn't realize that.
we've got new facilities or new buildings that are being built next to Whole Foods. So
yeah, I thought someone had said that was an expansion of Whole Foods.
it's not.
Okay,
It's not.
that's what I thought.
There will be individual retailers that will be occupying those spaces.
Okay, what type of retail?
I think you can expect to see some of the traditional retail chains. I think you can expect to see maybe a jeweler coming there.
Okay.
I think you can expect to see maybe a men's clothing store.
Okay.
So think
Good.
about those types of retail establishments
Good.
that'll be coming to the location.
I've always felt that the Allen side was more, although we do have big box on this side, but the Allen side was more big box, and the Fairview side was more, what's the word? Smaller, unique shops.
Yes.
But those really got hit hard a little bit,
That's
I
right.
think, because they're set in the back.
That's
and
right.
you people don't know they're there. So the new owner, which is Lincoln, they're making those changes. Tell us what they're planning on doing.
Lincoln has done everything, Tom, that they said they were going to do. They committed to the town to invest up to $50 million in making improvements, and they're well on their way to actually doing that. In addition to the new buildings that you see, there are some leases. Some people are clearly there are some leases that simply were not renewed. One of the things that Lincoln is known for is having a very deep Rolodex of businesses. And so, in some cases, the businesses that appear to be going out of business, they're simply leaving Fairview because their leases were not renewed.
Oh, okay.
And in those cases, Lincoln has clear designs in terms of who they want to occupy
Okay.
that space.
Okay.
So they've been absolutely phenomenal partners.
Right.
And as I say, they've very, very deep Rolodex in terms of
Right.
who they want and who they can attract to
Okay.
Fairview Town Center, and they've done an excellent job of doing so.
And it looks like they're opening up they're going to have another avenue leading back there. Is that right? Kind of in the
Yes.
middle. Right now there are two ways to get there, but they're adding a
Yes.
third
Yes.
right through the middle.
Yes, they have done that. It's actually, obviously not completed yet, but the easy access. One of the things that the center, there was some poor design originally of the center. And you just identified one of the features of that poor design, which was, in essence, some of the small businesses in the back, they cannot be viewed.
Right.
So one of the primary things that they have invested in is signage within the center and making it more walkable.
Are they going to be adding signage to it, do you
Yeah,
think?
there's been some signs already added,
Okay.
and there will be some more signs.
Okay.
So if you are down Highway 75, they've added signs, and within the town center, and actually out on Stacy Road, you see some additional signs
Yeah.
that actually point you to the businesses that are actually located within Fairview Town Center. So
I remember a couple of years ago, didn't they have church bells kind of playing at one time? I was walking, it was like a fall day, a real crisp fall day, and I was walking through the back portion of it, and I heard church bells,
Yeah.
and I thought, God, this is so cool. But for some reason, it never seemed to take off, and I thought, what a great place to be.
Lincoln
What's the
has
reason?
great designs, great ideas. Tom, one of the things that we were so pleased with in some of our early discussions, they talked about and showcased some of the previous malls or retail centers that they had worked with in terms of turning around. Trust me when I say this, these folk know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, well, they do. They've been doing it for a long time, and they've got deep pockets. So.
Deep pockets, and they've been just great business partners. And look, one of the things that constitutes a great business partner for me, I've been an executive for a long time, is doing what you say you'll do. And first and foremost, and preeminently for me,
Right.
those folk have done everything they said they would do. And that is the beginning of what I anticipate will be a very, very long and very, very good relationship for the town of Fairview and with Lincoln Properties.
And then what? In fact, I think Congressman, what's the congressman name? Jason coming tomorrow.
I forget his
Oh well, the congressman's going to be speaking at, I believe it's the. I looked at the address, and it's where the little arena is that they built at Lincoln's.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if that's where it's going to be, but that's where it was
I'm
addressed.
not sure where it's going, if it's going to be there. And given the forecast for rain tomorrow,
Oh, is it supposed to?
yeah, I don't think it's going to be there. But
But he's coming up and talking to the town of Fairview, so they may move it indoors.
yes, I've actually spent as part of my responsibility, Tom, and a big part of this job, quite candidly, is to actually spend time with our local elected officials. And Fairview had a reputation when I came into office as being very insular. We didn't reach out very often. We were not viewed as citizens within our community.
Well, when we first met, one of the things, I'm one of Darian's biggest fans because I've known him for quite a while, and I've watched him grow with the town. And one of the things he really impressed me with was you were walking home to home to meeting people, you know, and you always make a point to visit with people and stop. So you're doing what you are trying to. You're doing what you're saying, and you're not insulating the politics from the people itself.
Absolutely not. The two are interrelated. And one of the things that I don't talk about until now, but I think you and I've talked about it before, is I have this rule that I visit with at least 3 residents every week. And sometimes the town secretary will call up a resident from a neighborhood that I haven't spoken to. And a resident I don't even know that says the mayor would like to spend some time with you. I'd just like to have breakfast with you or lunch with you or whatever time permits. I have
You
a
get
phone
good
conversation.
feedback? Are they pretty open with you?
Absolutely, and that's one of the great parts about this job is feedback is a gift. It's what you do with that gift that matters the most.
Negative or positive.
Absolutely.
We feel the same way. It's a gift when someone shares, like when someone goes to look at a home and they don't have great things to say about the home. We still want to hear that
Yes.
because our sellers want to know that too. So that's a term we use a lot. Feedback is a gift, whether it's positive or negative.
It is indeed, and actually, from new residents, I will stop by new neighborhoods, knock on doors of new residents, and introduce myself. Existing residents, I go through neighborhoods all the time, and one of my favorite memories that I'll take with me as I leave this office is on Sunday afternoons, my wife and I will just drive in neighborhoods and see a crowd of people, and just talk, and see what's on their hearts or minds.
Right.
And the truth is, people just want to raise their families, Tom.
Right.
They want to make
We're
sure
all
that
out here for the same reason:
Yeah,
quality of
exactly,
life,
exactly.
a little room to spread your wings, great place to raise kids, great schools. We're all here for the same reasons.
I hear that on a continuous and a consistent basis.
Right.
And
It's just a little. It's not Mayberry,
No.
but it's as close to Mayberry as you'll ever be next to a big sprawling metropolis like DFW.
Yeah.
You can walk right in and pay your bills, whatever. The people are always friendly. The townspeople are friendly. They're accessible to all of the people. City council. I think I noticed you have your email, and I think you have your phone on your.
My personal
Right.
cell phone is out there as well.
Right. That's
Yeah.
pretty unusual.
It is, and I actually have been chided by that from some of the other mayors in terms of why do you do that? Well,
Right.
to me, this is a personal job. This is a job when people have certain expectations of you,
Right.
and if they want to reach out to you, they should be able to do that.
Right.
I realize that I only have 10,000 residents we have 10,000 residents that at some point will grow to 15, 16,000.
Yeah. What is the cap? What will it cap out?
It'll be about 16,000. And the biggest part of our growth, 80% of our future growth of the town of Fairview, Tom, will be between Highway 5 and Highway 75.
Okay.
That corridor up near the hospital,
Right.
it will be the biggest part of our future
So,
growth.
and that's multifamily, basically.
We've actually done a lot to change that.
Okay.
It was just going to be multifamily. But Tom, I felt when I came into office that with a town of roughly 9.2 square miles or something thereabouts, we have enough apartments. It was my belief that with the additional land that we have that has not been built out, that we make that single-family homes, make that townhomes,
Right.
of the like.
Yeah.
So we worked with the owners of that property, and that's what we have planned for that area.
Right.
Will be something like that, not big sprawling apartment complexes that are
Right.
literally littered the landscape of North Dallas and North Texas.
Because you guys just kicked off one at Greenville and Country Club.
Yes, we did. That's going to be some single-family homes as well as townhomes as well.
For those of you that don't know Fairview very well, Fairview, like Lucas and Parker, in a way it's limited in that public sewer doesn't go to all parts of the town.
That's right.
And the more high density areas, those all have sewer, which runs up and down 75 in Greenville.
Yes.
And as you get away from those areas, it does lack sewer, public sewer, so every home has its own septic system. And because of that, there are minimum requirements you have to have in acreage, the amount of land, at least an acre. So that's one of the cool things about Fairview. People say, oh gosh, it doesn't have public sewer, and really that's an advantage because with single family, it's a more stable environment. There isn't as much turnover, and Fairview's a very special place if you've never heard of it. In fact, years ago, I remember before all this shopping came in, I remember talking to someone in Allen, and I said, yeah, I'm going up to look at a home in Fairview. He said, where's Fairview? And it's literally right across the street. There was no sign on 75 saying Fairview. Now there is. But for years there was nothing. People didn't know.
Right.
And for a long time, before all the shopping came in, people said, well, where am I going to do my shopping? And they didn't move up here. So now that the shopping's here and it's such a big draw, now people are saying, is that shopping hurting us? And I say, absolutely not. It's really increased your values. How much of your income would you say the town income comes from the Lincoln property?
I think the current ratio, Tom, is about 34% comes from sales tax in the town,
right,
and the rest comes from property tax.
Right.
I think that's the
right,
ratios somewhere in that neighborhood.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we're very pleased with what Lincoln is doing here because it'll help increase our sales tax.
And by the way, that sales tax goes towards the town, not towards Lovejoy, because that's the McKinney ISD side. I was going to ask you something too.
Tom, maybe go back to something you said earlier,
Yeah.
just to maybe elaborate on it just a little bit. One of the things that I said earlier, that at one point in our life cycle as a town, that we were a little bit insular in terms of not having a great reputation with our neighboring municipalities.
That's exactly right. You sure did.
And many of the long-term residents remember that.
With McKinney especially.
With McKinney especially. And some of the newer residents perhaps don't have any inkling of that, and nor should they.
Right.
And we don't want to drum up the days of old, but it's just important that one of the things that we've attempted to do, not only on the local level, but at the state level and at the federal level as well, is become more relevant in terms of who we are and have a seat at the table when it comes to those decisions. And very, very proud of the fact that now when there are regional issues being discussed, 380 or other road, I get that call from other mayors. Do you want to participate? Can you meet with us to do this or have this discussion, have those discussions? Would you be available to meet with us with regard to some of the other local? Would you work with us in terms of a plan? Those are all things that historically have not happened in the town of Fairview.
I think they've watched what's happened here, realized these guys, they know what they're doing, and you guys do. I mean, I have been in some cities that there's just total confusion.
Yeah.
They're totally against development. Development's going to come whether you want it or not, so it has to be done in a smart way, and you guys have done a good job.
We've worked really hard at that, Tom, with 82 people moving to Collin County every day. It's simply inevitable that some of that growth will happen in Fairview.
Right.
It's how you plan for that growth. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that we've been adherent to our zoning ordinances and practices. And that is that anything east of Highway 5, not including the commercial district along Highway 5, is still 1 acre, 2 acre, or 3 acre lots.
Right.
That's the Fairview calling card. That's what we're known for, having larger
Keep all the commercial
lots
on one side of the town, and you can assure everybody that that's not going to change. The sewer is not going to be brought in, and you're not going to have gas stations and retail strip centers. So In fact, I've worked with some developers. Developers also like working with Fairview because they say you're very fair. You're tough, but you're fair.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would. Well, one of my favorite developers has a great working relationship with you. I interviewed him the other day. We're just running out of land to develop. How much is developed right now?
We have there's not a lot left on the eastern part of our town. Mm-hmm. There's some smaller lots, 5-6 acre lots,
right?
10-acre lots, but Tom, there's not very many of those
for a major development.
Yeah, there's and major the really large developers, the niche developers love those type tracts.
Right, sure.
But the major developers, the Toll Brothers, and this will be likely the largest of the major developers that ever does another project in Fairview, built 60 homes on 113 acres, and Parkside, which is on the very eastern edge of our town, and there won't be another one like that.
Yeah, one of the great things Fairview did, and you probably had something to do with this or a lot to do with it, they required the developer to leave a great portion of that open for green space. So now there's a walking trail through all of this, under the trees that ties 3 different developments in. And that was one of the probably a give and take situation you had with them. We'll let you do this, but we want you to do that.
No doubt that it was a give and take, but it was more take than give, because we're pretty resolute in terms of who we are and what we want.
Right.
And the great news about the developers that you have worked with, that you've introduced to the town, are all high quality developers. And so generally when we work with folk that like that, they have an understanding that if you put the amenities in that the residents really want, then it only bodes well in terms of how you sell and market your product.
Right. One of the things we talked about a while back was the bike and hike trail, and you told me you had a vision, what you wanted to see. Tell me about that.
The vision, Tom, has always been the vision that I've laid bare before previous town councils as well as the town staff, is that you would literally be able to walk out of Town Hall, you would walk down Stacy Road, you would pass 7-Eleven, and if you were a hiker, biker, jogger, you would literally be able to hike, bike, or jog on our hike and bike trail all the way to Country Road 317. As you know, Country Road 317 is on the very edge of the town. It actually defines the town's limits. Right. And so the very edge of the eastern part of our town. And with the improvements that we recently made to Stacy Road, Stacy Road, East Stacy Road is open now, 2 lanes.
Let's talk about that too.
And the next phase of that, you'll see that the hike and bike trail is going in.
Oh, okay.
That will tie into the hike and bike trail that's currently on the south side of Stacy.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
That
so there will be literally it's been slow.
Right.
But the vision is coming to fruition in terms of, and it's the number one thing that we get, Tom, when we survey our residents. They love hike and bike trails, going around their neighborhoods, not necessarily through the neighborhoods. Right. And that's how we've designed our hike and bike trails to actually go around the neighborhoods.
Right.
So our residents are really excited about it, and I too am really excited about it.
Let's talk about Stacy Road, because it has been shut down. Well, it hadn't been shut down. It's been really restricted for how long? It's been a year?
Oh, it's been over a year. But if you're talking about, there's 2 parcels of Stacy Road. There's the we call Stacy Road, which is the piece that actually is the main artery from Highway 75 to Country Club, and then there's the East Stacy Road piece that is actually town owned, and so we've actually the piece of Stacy Road from 75 to Country Club, that has been 2 years, over 2 year project.
2 years
in terms of its making. It has been the bane of my existence, Tom.
I know.
Very frustrating.
Explain to us, because it's confusing to people.
Sure.
They think, well, there's that easement that goes behind the church there. You could just tie it in and keep going all the way. Explain who owns that land and why it goes from 6 lanes to 2 lanes and then dead ends into Country Club.
Great question. So part of the negotiation that we had with the City of Allen wanted to be 6 lanes, period, from Highway 5 to Country Club. From our perspective, Tom, 6 lanes just invites more traffic, and quite candidly, we don't have the traffic volume to support 6 lanes at this point. So it was built with very wide medians, so that at some point in the future, and Tom, the future, based on our discussions with TxDOT, are likely 30 years from now.
Okay.
That'll be expanded to 6 lanes at some point in time. That may happen. There's a good chance that may not happen as well.
And what would be the purpose if you can't extend it past Country Club? Because Fairview owns that land. Is that correct?
Well, that we don't. Actually,
okay.
the land next to First Baptist is actually owned by the county.
The county, okay.
Yeah, it's owned by the county. And I've had multiple conversations with county judge and former Commissioner Chris Hill, who represents this area and current county judge, about buying that back from the county. I have felt consistently that any time that's in the town's hands, then the town can control what happens with it.
Right.
Right now, and have a great relationship, great working relationship in terms of that parcel of property with the county.
Right.
But until it's ultimately into the town's hands,
right.
we have the county can do whatever they want to with it.
Yeah, make a great little park.
We've actually discussed that being a park. We've actually discussed and have gotten tacit approval to maybe put the hike and bike trail through there. So we've had lots of conversations about it, but right now it's owned by the county, and we've attempted to buy it back, but quite candidly, Tom, we just can't agree on price. And one of the things that
isn't that funny?
I have to be, clearly we have to be, not just I, but the elected officials have to be mindful of spending dollars that the residents don't get a return on.
Right. Which I'm going to get into that with you in a second.
Sure.
The upcoming bond. You can look at this as a good thing or a bad thing, but you were telling me the not the average, but the median price of a home in Fairview now coming out of the ground.
Yeah, it was $1.1 million.
Yeah, that's incredible.
What's happened, Tom, is this, and it's just supply and demand, one. But two, by virtue of the fact that we have very restrictive zoning ordinances on the eastern part of our town, and it's 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre lots, it simply made the price of those lots more expensive. So in making those lots more expensive to justify the bill of a house on a lot, the math in terms of what it would take to actually build.
Right.
When
you're paying $400,000 for a lot, you can't put a $400,000 home on top of a $400,000 lot. The numbers just don't work.
Exactly.
So if you go like a 3-to-1, at least 2-to-1, probably 3-to-1, you're at 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 is an average.
We've got and we've had some lots, Tom, that are $400,000 and greater, as you well know.
Right.
Several lots that are $800,000.
Right.
In the town of Fairview.
Right.
So
it's a very unique niche community.
It really is, and I'll tell you this: that what we see and can see it consistently. From a socioeconomic perspective, kind of the tip of the spear. And what do you mean by that, Mayor? I mean that generally people in Fairview are more well-to-do. So people moving to Fairview, even in good times or bad times, and paying 1.2, 1.3 million for a house, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And so there's always this small, and I don't know if you see it in your business, Tom, but there's always this small group of folk. It's not the masses, but a small group of folk that are price conscious, but are actually protected from price. So they have the flexibility to kind of do what they want from a economic perspective.
Right.
And we see more and more of those buyers actually come into the town of Fairview. And so.
This is, and I don't know how much of this you can share, but
Sure.
Being a mayor, anything you do, half the people are going to love what you do, other half are going to think it's a mistake. Have you had a problem with people slinging arrows at you?
There's always that, but it's
part of being a mayor, I guess.
It's a part of being. When you accept this role, Tom, you accept. I accept the letters of of thank you, the emails of thank you, the phone calls of thank you, as well as I accept the letters of, you screwed this up.
Right.
This was a mistake.
Right.
It just
And how do you handle those when a letter comes in like that, or do you reach out to them
absolutely,
and try to? Okay.
Absolutely. I have a 24-hour rule when it comes to my email, and I don't always meet it because I have another job as well.
Right.
But I have a 24-hour rule to respond.
Yeah.
To any and every email,
Right.
Within 24 hours. That's
Right.
that's my goal to attempt to do that. Don't
Right.
always meet that, but I'm pretty good about doing
Right.
that.
Well, it's tough to do in a position
But
like
Tom, I'll
that.
tell you this: this is a job in which this is a bottom-up job, not a top-down. And what do I mean by that? You have to have a passion for being a servant to do this job.
Oh yeah.
If you do this job looking for praise, accommodation,
Right.
etc., you're doing it for the wrong reasons,
Right.
and you're chasing something you will never
Right.
catch in this job.
Right.
This is a job that's all about service. It's all about doing the right thing and doing it consistently. I say all the time, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing.
Have you ever asked yourself, why am I doing this?
I have, my wife has.
Yeah, I'll bet.
She's asked me that several times. I think in every season, for every individual, there's a season that you do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
This has just been the season where I've donated a significant amount of my time
Yeah.
to serving others as a public servant.
Right. Because
So-
you truly love Fairview.
I love this town.
Yeah.
I love this town, and every decision that I make, and I've said this in every speech that I give, that my first thought at any decision, and by the way, this is a job in which the black and white decisions, those are easy. No, it
Right.
doesn't.
Right.
It's when you have to pick the best shade of gray.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the tough decisions. But every decision that I make has been made through the funnel of what's in the best interest of the town.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And so I can sleep good at night knowing that I made a decision
Right. You left it a better place.
that is in the best interest of the town, whether everybody agrees with that or not. I say quite often, to your earlier point, Tom, that 50% agree with me, 50% disagree, and I agree with 50%.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's simply one of those jobs in which, but I've got, for every negative, I haven't done the math, Tom, but I would venture to say that the negatives are outweighed by the positives.
Yeah. I would think so too.
To 5 to 6 to 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when people have disagreed with me, the way in which we've gone about trying to find common ground in terms of disagreement, I think people are appreciative of that as well. And this is a job too, I'll just say this quickly, that you're simply not going to have 100% ever in terms
Right.
of decision
No,
or decision making.
Right.
You're simply not going to have that. And that's okay. And
Right.
that's okay. That's how democracy works.
That's exactly right. Okay. What's your what would you say you're most proud of, your accomplishments?
A few things, Tom. I think when I look back, and I've never made a list of these things, because to me that's vain, and this is not about a job of vanity. It's about getting things done. But
Let me
one of the things-
rephrase that.
Oh,
With the help of the city council and
Sure.
everybody else, what do you think during your term has been the best accomplishments that you guys have gotten?
I think, Tom, one of the things that as you look around Fairview Town Center,
Okay.
it's much better now than it was then.
Yeah, it sure is.
We've made market improvements in terms of this.
I agree.
We changed some ordinances. We've done some things that have made this place a better place. I wasn't around when the original town council decided to have this place, but I inherited this place and everything that comes with this place. So my job with anything that I inherit is to make it better.
Right.
And so I leave this job knowing that I made this place
Right.
and this Fairview Town Center a better place.
What else?
I think, Tom, as I think about the area north of here and putting the tax increment financing district in place, Tom, in about a year or so, that district will generate about $300,000 a year for our residents, and those are incremental dollars, and they're incremental because the county contributes to the TIF. And so people that don't live or work here are actually contributing to the quality of life here. And so that'll be the gift that keeps on giving long after I'm gone.
Right.
That there'll be at some point in time when that tips Trinity. If you think about the 900 plus acres that we haven't even developed yet in our central business district, a commercial plan development district, I should say, that it'll be the gift that keeps on giving for a very long period of time. So I'm very proud of the fact that that from a town financial perspective, the town's on very solid ground. We've improved our resources. We've improved our sources of funding. Tom, one of the things I did when I first became mayor was we had some bonds that when I looked at our bond structure, there were 20-year bonds that hadn't been refinanced. Well, interest rates on some of those bonds were 250 basis points out of market. We refinanced those bonds and saved our residents roughly $400,000 a year, just in terms of refinancing costs.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good segue into the bond package that's floating out there now. Tell us about that. And the way you feel about
It is a bond to produce a new fire station number 1. And Tom, this is something that quite candidly should have been done years ago.
Now, you told me it's literally falling down.
It was literally falling down. We literally had to tear other pieces of it down and put out 2 modular buildings in this place now. Something that previous councils, quite candidly, kicked down the road. We put together, Tom, and this is one of the things I'm proud of. When I came to the office, we had maybe a year-to-year plan, capital plan, in terms of what do we want to do next, and how do we pay for it. I leave office with a 10-year plan in place.
Oh, okay.
So we know, and it's a plan. Plans change. But as you all know, it's always easier to edit than to engineer.
Right.
And so future councils have every right to edit that plan.
Right.
But there is a plan.
Right.
And so one of the things I'm proud of is that when we created that plan, one of the things on that plan was a new fire station. I knew, Tom, I could no longer kick that down the road.
Right.
And I wasn't
going to
kick
tell me
down the
that
road.
the ceiling fell down on one of the firemen? Or
Yeah, they've got all kinds of stories. Some funny, some not so funny, in terms of things that have happened at that
just
building.
No excuse for a town like this.
It's the time has come,
Yeah.
Tom. The first bond package, it was too expensive. One of the learnings that I had was this, and this was.
What was the first one? What was the total?
The first one was $25 million.
Okay.
We asked our residents for $25 million and a property tax increase.
Okay, and you're at 7.6 now.
At
Is that right?
$7.6 million. We're asking them to approve $7.6 million and no property tax, no tax increase at
okay.
all to pay for
Okay.
this. We're going to pay for this through other means that we have on hand to pay for this.
So what is the objection? I haven't, because I don't
okay.
live in Fairview. What's the objection to it coming from?
Part of the objection that I've heard is that it adds to our debt. Okay, that we'll have too much debt at that point in time.
Right.
If we were to do this.
Right.
Part of the objection that I've heard is that we don't need another fire station. That has been refuted because we hired a consultant that an ad hoc group of our council work with to actually lay out what do we need.
Right.
Best practices, etc.
Right.
And one of his recommendations was you absolutely need another fire station in this town.
Right.
But in terms of debt, Tom, we in 2000, coming out of during the Great Recession, we had roughly 6,300 residents and a debt level of roughly $23 million. Now we've got about 9,600 residents, soon to be 10,000, and our debt load is $27 million. If we pass this bond, $26 million, it'll be $33 million.
Okay.
Here's the difference. At 6,300 residents, our tax base was $800 million. Our tax base today, Tom, is over $2 billion. So I came in the office, we were AA rated. I leave office, we're AA plus rated in terms of our bond package.
Something to be proud of.
Something to be proud of, and it tells you that the folk who rate our bonds, they understand that the reason we can afford additional capacity for debt is very simply because we have the tax base to support it.
Right.
$800 million in 2007, 2008, $2 billion in tax base value today. So I think that in terms of paying for this, we've shown that we can pay for the debt with no property tax increase.
Right.
And I'm encouraged.
Yeah. When is the vote?
The early voting has already started,
Okay.
but
That's right. It just started yesterday.
Started yesterday, but May 4th is the final day of voting.
Okay.
And
Well,
I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing from our residents in terms of their
Right.
enthusiasm for this. That there's clearly some they'll advocate against it,
Sure.
and they're
that'd be a
right.
nice walking away gift for you, though, if that
You know what?
happens.
I appreciate you saying that. I don't view it that way. What I promised the men and women who work there was that I would do everything within my might to make sure that they're home away from home. We give them the best training.
Right.
We give them the best resources, but we give them a building, Tom, that's not even up to fire standards.
Yeah.
The fire station number 1 is the only building in town that's not up to fire code.
Unbelievable.
So we can do better. We can do
Yeah.
better as a town.
Yeah.
And I promise, I get to speak every year at the firemen's annual firemen's award and their dinner, and I spend time with their families, and that's one of the things that families ask me about as well. And I've promised their families
Yeah.
that I would do everything in my might to do
Okay.
better.
Unfinished business. Anything else?
Yeah, there's always you can't be in this role, Tom, and ever be, at least me, ever be
What are you
satisfied.
surprised that didn't come about?
That
What
I didn't
surprised-
get done,
Yeah.
that I'm disappointed in, quite candidly, there's a couple things. The first thing is that we're not member cities, a member city of the North Texas Municipal Water District.
Okay.
We should be a member city. Many member cities get a discount. And so we have petitioned in the past, and we will do so again. I just ran out of time in terms of making it a
Right.
focal priority.
Right.
But there's no reason why we can't become a member city of the North Texas Municipal Water District. That's one thing.
Okay.
The other thing, Tom, that I would say that I'm disappointed in is that I did make more progress in terms of the build out of the 900 acres or so. We have the infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure in place. So that 900 acres doesn't have roads, doesn't have water,
That's
doesn't
right.
have sewer.
That's a major development when that occurs.
It is. It will occur. And I think it will occur in pretty short order.
Have you heard anything about not Majestic? What's the development at the southwest corner that Allen is doing?
Yes.
What's the name of that?
I do know the name of it. I've simply forgotten.
And
But I've
is
heard,
that still on track?
as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know and I've heard,
That's a huge
and the updates I
development
got,
too.
it's a huge
Be
development.
right across the street from
Yeah.
yours, and
Yeah.
it'll happen. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's always developers that have contacted the town, that are willing to work with the town.
Right.
It's just a matter of time.
Right.
Tom, I had to get the infrastructure taken care of first.
Right.
And the only way to take care of the infrastructure without our residents paying for it is through this TIF. So we're going to get there. We're doing things on my tenure, my term,
Right.
that Allen and McKinney did 20 years ago.
Right.
But the important thing is that we're doing them. And that at some point in time that will come to fruition.
Right.
It just won't be. I'll live in town and I'll get the chance to see them, but I won't be a part of leadership that welcome them here.
Okay. What are you planning on doing now? I told you, I said, if you could write your ticket in politics, and I'd actually help you if you ever
I
decided to
appreciate
go that route. But what do you have plans now that you've got this free time?
I've been asked that by a lot of residents. As a matter of fact, I want to thank you for saying that. That's so kind of you. I've had other residents who've asked and who've offered to fund campaigns for me. After 13 years, Tom, I need to just take a step back for a moment and recalibrate. I've been asked about teaching, but I'm an executive at a Fortune 500 company. I'm one of 8 people who run a $6 billion company, and so there's a lot of responsibility
Right.
associated with that
Right.
as well.
Right.
And so I'm going to recalibrate that. We have some growth plans that I've recently have been made responsible for M&A, for mergers and acquisitions of our company.
Okay.
So I say recently, we completed our first merger and acquisition earlier this year
Oh, good.
that I led. And so there may be some more of that.
Right.
But I also am part owner of 3 small businesses in the area as well.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
that I never talk about. One's, I won't give the names, but one's because I don't want to advertise, but one's a beauty and barber salon, one's a wedding chapel, and the other is a home health care company.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
I
Are
plan.
they in the Fairview area?
No, not directly in Fairview.
Okay.
2 are based out of Plano, and one's
Okay.
based out of Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell us, I know you're very proud of your son. We talked about him. It's your only son, is
We
that right?
have our only child. Yes, he's our
Yeah,
pride
tell
joy.
us about him, too.
Great young man. First graduating class of Lovejoy High School. Graduate of Oklahoma State. As a matter of fact, he and I just came back last week from a father-son trip to Hong Kong and
You
to
took one
Singapore.
of those last year, too, didn't
We
you?
do. He and I travel a lot together. We go with mom too quite a bit, but some of the longer jaunts.
Yeah.
Hong Kong's a 16-hour flight from Dallas,
Oh, wow.
and she was like, you know what, you boys go, have a
Yeah,
good time.
yeah.
So
And what was his major?
his major was ag finance,
Okay.
and so he actually works in the finance field now at a big
Okay.
company in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And so he's only 3 hours away, so we get to hang
Yeah.
out, and he's back in graduate school now.
Yeah. Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, I cannot say enough about the Lovejoy School District. I
Yeah.
mean, quite candidly, for him, college was easy.
Was it really?
Yeah,
He said that when he got there.
He
He
said
"Dad,
that this is nothing compared to the rigor that we went through
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
at Lovejoy.
Yeah.
So he actually is in grad school now, getting his graduate degree in corporate finance.
Okay.
But yeah, he comes back and still hangs back.
And he still wants to take trips with you. That's pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool for a 25-year-old.
It really
And
is.
for an old man, huh?
And then tell us about your wife. How does she feel about you?
You know what? I owe her more time from this. There are times, Tom, over the last 6 and beyond that, 6 years especially, that you don't have weekends.
Mm-hmm.
There's this event, there's that event. You need
Right.
to speak here. You need to go
Right.
there.
You're the face of Fairview.
You have to be, and part of the job associated with that is not just Fairview. It's always Fairview first. And I don't mean that to be in an insular way, but I always around my schedule around things that are taking place in Fairview first. But because I'm an African American, let's be candid about that, I'm asked to speak at every group in Collin County.
Is that right?
As an African American mayor. And not just African American events, but all kinds of events. I've spoken at every Collin County Republican club and Democratic club event that there is.
Is that right? Well, you're an inspiration too.
You know what? I wanted. This is not just about me. This is about inspiring others to do and accomplish above and beyond this. And I mentor a lot of kids in that regard as well. I'm just a country boy from the piney woods of North Louisiana, whose parents had a great belief in him that he could do and accomplish great things. That look, my grandfather was a sharecropper.
Really?
My grandfather was a sharecropper.
Unbelievable.
So
How did you fight your way to get into college? And
both my parents are college grads, but and first in their families be college grads. And you know what? I grew up in a household of
high expectations for one thing.
It was all about expectations.
Yeah.
So and from that perspective, I will always be thankful to my parents for instilling that zest and that quest to actually to give back to the community as well.
Right.
And to achieve. I've been a lot of first in my life.
Right.
I'm very proud of that, but it's not, you don't rest on that. It's
Right.
not why you do things to be the first.
Right.
You do things to get things done and to make people's lives
Yeah.
that you can influence better.
Is
There's no doubt about that.
Is it an immediate handover? Like on May 5th, you literally stop all of your, or is there consulting still involved? Or?
No, there's no consulting involved. There's a canvassing of the election. So what'll happen is the election's got to be certified by the county, and then we canvass or certify what the county sends us.
Okay.
And so that generally doesn't happen for another week after the election. So I will be still mayor up until that point.
Right.
But in essence,
Right.
there won't be my last town council meeting will be on May 7th.
Yeah, well, it's sad. You've been such a positive force for this area, and I know that the town of Fairview is going to miss you. And I'd love to see you stay forever. I like having lunch with you every once in a while. I'm learning
Thank
about
you,
the new
Tom.
stuff coming on in Fairview, but I guess things change. And I don't live in Fairview, so I can't speak for Fairview residents, but I can speak from someone that has known you for quite a while and what you've done and your enthusiasm. They're very lucky to have had you. And
Thank
I
you,
hope the
Tom.
next mayor steps in and fills your role and there's no gap.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate the time to spend with you.
Thank you.
You've been a friend for a long time, and you'll be a friend for life. So
Yeah.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity to share with you.
And thank you all for listening in, too.